Captain Sarah Chin stood at the bridge of the ESS Horizon, staring into the vast expanse of space through the ship's panoramic viewing screen. The emergency distress signal they'd detected 3 days ago still pulsed steadily on her command console, its alien origin both fascinating and concerning. After decades of space exploration, humanity had yet to encounter another sentient species. Until now. Signal analysis complete, Captain. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from his station. It's definitely not human in origin, but the pattern suggests artificial construction. Someone out there is calling for help. Sarah nodded, her dark eyes fixed on the distant stars. Humanity's first venture beyond their solar system had been prompted by necessity rather than choice. Earth's resources had dwindled, and climate change had pushed them to the brink. But what they'd found in space had transformed them. The discovery of quantum fold drive had given humanity the stars, and with them, a second chance. Life signs detected, the ship's AI announced, its calm voice filling the bridge. Multiple non-human biosignatures on the third planet of the system. Detecting signs of orbital bombardment and ongoing military activity. Sarah's jaw tightened. They'd prepared for this possibility, first contact occurring during a conflict. The UN Space Command protocols were clear: observe and report, do not intervene. But as the ship drew closer, the scale of devastation became apparent. The planet's once gleaming cities were visible even from orbit, their crystalline structures now shattered and burning. Massive ships loomed above the atmosphere, their dark hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. They were unlike anything human engineers had ever conceived, organic shapes that seemed to defy conventional physics. Captain, Rodriguez's voice cracked slightly. We're picking up broadcasts. The translation matrix it's working. You need to hear this. The bridge speakers crackled to life with a voice that sounded both alien and desperately familiar in its fear. This is the final transmission of the Meridian Collective. Our defenses have failed. The void has consumed our outer colonies, and now they come for our homeworld. To any who received this message, we were a peaceful people. Remember us. Learn from our... The transmission cut off abruptly. Sarah's hands gripped the command rail until her knuckles turned white. The Horizon was a survey vessel, not a warship. They had no business getting involved in an interstellar conflict. And yet... Ma'am, her first officer, Commander James Wallace, spoke quietly beside her. The void ships haven't detected us. Our quantum fold signature is unlike anything they're familiar with. We could leave, report back to command. Sarah watched as another city on the surface erupted in flames. The Meridian's desperate plea echoed in her mind. Humanity had nearly destroyed itself once, had learned the hard way about the price of conflict and the value of unity. They'd sworn to do better among the stars. Open a channel to UN Space Command, she ordered. Priority Alpha. And begin full sensor sweeps of those void vessels. I want to know everything: weapons, defenses, power signatures. Everything. Captain? Wallace's eyebrows rose. The non-intervention protocols will be followed, Commander. Sarah cut him off, a plan already forming in her mind. We're going to observe and report. But we're also going to ensure that what we report gives humanity options. The Meridians called for help. And while we can't intervene directly, she allowed herself a small smile. We can make damn sure that when humanity does make its presence known to the galaxy at large, we're ready to make a difference. The bridge crew worked in focused silence as the Horizon maintained its hidden position. Sarah knew that what they discovered here would change everything. Humanity had developed its technology in isolation, taking unique approaches to problems that other species might have solved differently. Their quantum fold drive was proof of that, while other races had focused on brute force approaches to faster-than-light travel. Humans had found a way to slip between the folds of space itself. Captain, the ship's AI interrupted her thoughts. I've detected something unusual about the void vessel's weapon systems. They appear to be using a form of gravitational manipulation for their main armament. Highly effective against conventional shields and armor, but theoretically vulnerable to quantum field disruption. Sarah's smile grew wider. This was exactly what she'd hoped for, not just information about a potential threat, but about potential vulnerabilities. Humanity might be new to the galactic stage, but they'd learned long ago that the best way to prevent a fight was to make sure your potential opponents knew you could win it. Log everything, she ordered. And prepare a quantum fold jump back to Earth. We need to report this to the Security Council immediately. She paused, watching as another void ship descended toward the suffering planet below. And send a tight beam transmission to the surface, coded in basic mathematics. Let the Meridians know they're not alone. Help is coming. As the Horizon prepared to jump, Sarah made a silent promise to the dying civilization below. Humanity would return, not just with aid for the survivors, but with the means to ensure such destruction never happened again. They had hidden in their corner of space, developing their technology and culture in isolation. Perhaps it was time to show the galaxy that humanity had learned from its own violent past and was ready to help others avoid the same mistakes. The quantum fold drive hummed to life, and the ESS Horizon slipped between the layers of reality, carrying with it the seeds of humanity's emergence onto the galactic stage. The age of observation was over. The age of action was about to begin. The United Nations Security Council chamber had never been so quiet. The holographic display at the center of the room showed the devastating footage captured by the ESS Horizon, images of the Meridian homeworld burning under the Void Collective's assault. 6 months had passed since Captain Chen's discovery, and humanity had been busy. Admiral James Chen, Sarah's father and head of UN Space Command's strategic operations, stood before the assembled representatives. The Void Collective has occupied 80% of Meridian space. Our stealth observers report they're systematically stripping each world of resources, leaving nothing but lifeless husks behind. The Russian representative leaned forward. And you're certain they haven't detected our presence? Positive, James replied. Our quantum fold technology operates on principles they haven't discovered. Their sensors can't track our ships. But that advantage won't last forever. The Chinese representative's hologram flickered as she spoke. The Meridian survivors we extracted from their outer colonies have been invaluable. Their understanding of void technology, combined with our different approach to physics, has accelerated our defensive preparations by decades. It was true. The refugee scientists had been stunned by humanity's quantum fold drive, calling it impossible. In turn, their knowledge of gravitational manipulation had helped Earth scientists develop countermeasures against void weapons. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. We can't stand by forever, Sarah Chen spoke up from her position near the door. Her promotion to Commodore had come with command of the newly formed Shadow Fleet, designed specifically for covert operations in occupied space. The Meridians are dying while we prepare. We need to do more. Commodore, the American representative warned, direct intervention could bring the full might of the Void Collective down on Earth before we're ready. Sarah activated her own holographic display, showing a complex network of supply lines and fortress worlds. Then we don't intervene directly. The Void Collective isn't monolithic. They're a coalition of aggressive species united by their belief in technological supremacy. Their arrogance is their weakness. Her father nodded slowly, seeing where she was going. You want to use their own psychology against them. Exactly. Sarah manipulated the display, highlighting specific targets. They don't just strip resources, they eliminate any civilization they consider technologically inferior. But what if their weapons started failing against primitive defenses? What if their supposedly inferior enemies started slipping through their blockades? The Security Council chamber erupted in murmurs. The Indian representative spoke first. You're suggesting we provide the remaining Meridian resistance with technology that appears primitive but incorporates our quantum principles? Better. Sarah smiled. I'm suggesting we help the Meridians appear to develop these countermeasures themselves. The Void Collective's entire society is built on their perceived technological superiority. Let's make them question everything they think they know. The plan took shape over the next hours. Humanity would remain hidden, but their influence would be felt. Quantum-enhanced shield generators, disguised as crude energy barriers. Weapons that looked like simple projectiles but could disrupt the Void's gravitational weapons. And most importantly, ships that could seemingly appear from nowhere, strike, and vanish, letting the Void Collective think the Meridians had discovered their own form of FTL travel. There are risks, Admiral Chen cautioned. If they capture any of this technology and study it deeply enough, then we make sure they don't, Sarah countered. Every piece of equipment we provide will have a quantum destruct sequence. If compromised, it'll collapse into its component atoms. The Void will find nothing but mysteries. The Security Council voted. The resolution passed unanimously. Operation Ghostlight would begin immediately. 3 weeks later, Sarah stood on the bridge of her new command, the ESS Shadowweave. The stealth vessel represented the peak of human engineering, incorporating everything they'd learned from studying the Void Collective. Its quantum fold drive had been refined to leave no trace in normal space, and its hull could absorb or redirect any known form of scanning. All ships report ready, Commodore, her XO reported. The Shadow Fleet hung in the void between stars, 20 ships that technically didn't exist, crewed by volunteers who'd left no paper trail. Begin Phase 1, Sarah ordered. Deploy the quantum beacons in the designated systems. Let's give our Meridian friends some hidden advantages. The fleet split up, each ship heading to its assigned coordinates. The quantum beacons were masterpieces of deception. They looked like pieces of ancient Meridian technology, but contained advanced quantum field generators that would disrupt void weapons and sensors in subtle ways. As her ship slipped through the quantum fold, Sarah thought about the Meridian scientists working with Earth's engineers. They'd been horrified at first by humanity's violent history, but had come to understand that those same struggles had forced humans to think differently, to find unconventional solutions. Now that knowledge might save what remained of their civilization. Beacon deployment complete, the ship's AI reported. Detecting multiple Void patrol vessels in adjacent systems. They remain unaware of our presence. Sarah nodded. Send the coded transmission to the Meridian Resistance. Tell them that the stars themselves will begin fighting for them soon. They'll understand. The quantum fold drive engaged again, taking them to their next target. The game was about to change, and the Void Collective wouldn't know what hit them. Humanity had spent centuries fighting itself, learning the hard way about the futility of warfare based on pure technological superiority. Now those lessons would serve a greater purpose. The liberation of Meridian space had begun. Not with a grand battle or a dramatic revelation, but with shadows and whispers and carefully crafted illusions. The price of peace would be paid in secrets and subterfuge, and humanity would ensure that the payment was worth it. The Void Command ship Eternal Dominance shuddered as another gravitational weapon failed to destroy its target. Supreme Commander Vexthor's facial tendrils writhed in frustration as he watched the supposedly primitive Meridian vessel slip away. Again. Impossible, he roared, his crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the red alert lights. How are they surviving our weapons? How are they moving like that? But no one on his command deck had answers. The past 3 months had seen a complete reversal of what should have been a simple cleansing operation. The remaining Meridian forces, rather than being crushed, were now striking with inexplicable effectiveness. Light years away, Sarah Chin watched the encrypted feeds from quantum observation drones, allowing herself a small smile. Send the next set of coordinates to the Meridian Resistance, she ordered. Let's keep the Void Collective chasing shadows. The Shadow Fleet had grown to 30 vessels now, each one a masterpiece of human ingenuity combined with Meridian insights. They never engaged directly. Instead, they laid the groundwork for Meridian victories that seemed to come from nowhere. Commodore, her XO reported, the Meridians have successfully recovered their colony on Proxima Meridiani. The Void forces retreated after their weapons grid completely failed. The quantum beacons were doing their work perfectly. To the Void Collective, it would appear that their supposedly inferior enemies had suddenly developed countermeasures to their most advanced technology. The truth, that human quantum field manipulation was subtly unraveling their gravitational weapons, would remain hidden. New transmission from Earth, the communications officer announced. The Security Council has approved Phase 3. Sarah's smile widened. Phase 3 was her own design, a plan so audacious it had taken months to get approval. Signal the fleet. Begin quantum fold calculations for simultaneous deployment. For the next 12 hours, the Shadow Fleet prepared. Each ship's quantum fold drive was calibrated to microscopic precision. They would only get one chance at this. "All ships report ready, Commodore," the XO announced. "Quantum fold coordinates locked." Sarah stood from her command chair, addressing her crew. "What we do today will change the balance of power in this sector forever. The Void Collective believes they are supreme because of their technology. Today, we show them that true advancement comes from innovation, not domination." The plan was elegant in its simplicity. The Shadow Fleet would execute perfectly synchronized quantum fold jumps throughout void-controlled space. Each jump would create a cascade of quantum disruptions that, to Void sensors, would appear to be a fundamental breakdown of the laws of physics. "Execute Operation Starfall," Sarah ordered. 30 ships vanished simultaneously, their quantum fold drives tearing holes in reality that immediately collapsed. But the effect was spectacular. Throughout void space, their gravitational weapons began to fail catastrophically. Ships lost power. Communication networks collapsed. And in that moment of chaos, the Meridian resistance struck. Ships emerged from hidden bases, using technology that appeared to be cobbled together from salvage, but was actually quantum-enhanced by human engineers. They struck with precision, targeting key void installations that were suddenly defenseless. From her position near a void command center, Sarah watched through the quantum feeds as panic spread through their ranks. Their entire society was built on technological superiority, and now that superiority was failing them. "Second wave, prepare for deployment," she ordered. The quantum beacons they'd planted months ago would now serve their true purpose, not just disrupting void technology, but making it appear that space itself was rejecting their presence. The Void Collective had never encountered an enemy that thought like humans. They expected direct confrontation, displays of force. They weren't prepared for an adversary that would spend months setting up an elaborate technological illusion just to break their confidence. "Meridian forces have secured 3 more systems," her XO reported. "The Void Fleet is in full retreat from the outer colonies. They're requesting emergency meetings with their high command." Sarah nodded. "Send word to Earth. Phase 3 is proceeding as planned. Request authorization to begin Phase 4 preparations." As her ship slipped back into quantum fold space, she reviewed the latest intelligence. The Void Collective's leadership was in chaos. Their entire military doctrine was based on the assumption that their technology was superior to all others. Now that assumption was crumbling, and with it, their unity. "Message from the Meridian Resistance, Commodore," communications announced. They say the stars are singing for them now. Their people are calling it the Great Liberation." "The stars aren't singing," Sarah murmured. "That's just the sound of humanity's quantum drives, tearing apart everything the Void thought they knew about physics." The Shadow Fleet regrouped in deep space, preparing for their next series of synchronized jumps. They were invisible, untraceable, and performing feats that the Void Collective's best scientists would spend years trying to explain. This was humanity's gift to the galaxy, not just technology or military might, but a new way of thinking about conflict. Sometimes the greatest victories came not from destroying your enemy, but from making them question everything they believed in. Operation Starfall continued, and with each passing day, the Void Collective's grip on Meridian space weakened. They didn't know it yet, but they were being defeated not by a superior force, but by human ingenuity and the power of carefully crafted illusion. The Void Collective's High Council had never convened an emergency session in its 1,000-year history, until today. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood before the assembled leaders, his crystalline armor dulled with stress fractures. "Our forces have lost control of 37 systems," he reported, each word burning his pride. "The Meridians, they're using technology that shouldn't exist. Physics itself seems to bend around their ships. Our weapons fail, our sensors go blind, and their vessels appear and disappear at will." In her cloaked ship above the void capital world, Sarah Chen watched the proceedings through quantum-enhanced sensors. The Shadow Fleet had positioned itself throughout void space, invisible and waiting. But something felt wrong. "Commodore," her XO whispered, "long-range sensors are detecting massive power signatures." They're bringing their reserve fleets online. All of them. Sarah's eyes narrowed. The Void Collective maintained enormous fleets in dormancy, protected by automated defenses. Now those ships were awakening, thousands of them, more than anyone had suspected existed. They're desperate, she realized. And desperate beings do desperate things. Signal Earth immediately. The Void are about to do something monumentally stupid. She was right. On the quantum feed, Vex Thor was outlining their new strategy. If our weapons cannot defeat them conventionally, we will employ the mass drivers. All of them. Simultaneously. Sarah's blood ran cold. The Shadow Fleet had documented the Void's mass drivers, weapons that could accelerate small moons to relativistic speeds. They'd never used them before because the collateral damage would affect their own territories. Now they didn't care. They're going to destroy everything, she breathed. Not just the Meridians, but dozens of inhabited systems. Billions of lives, including their own people. The quantum comm crackled with an emergency transmission from Earth. Admiral Chen's voice was grim. The Security Council has reviewed your data. Authorization for Protocol Omega is granted. God help us all. Sarah stood, addressing her crew. Since humanity reached the stars, we've hidden our true capabilities. We've worked from the shadows, helping others while concealing our existence. That ends today. Throughout the Shadow Fleet, crews prepared for what they'd trained for but hoped never to use. Quantum fold drives spooled up to full power, not for stealth, but for something far more ambitious. All ships, Sarah broadcast, execute Protocol Omega. Target the mass drivers first, then move to contain the Void Fleet. Reveal protocols are in effect. Let them see exactly what they're dealing with. The Shadow Fleet dropped its quantum camouflage. 30 ships appeared simultaneously throughout void space, their hulls gleaming with an iridescent sheen that defied normal physics. They were no longer pretending to be Meridian vessels. These were Earth's finest warships, designed with both human ingenuity and Meridian insight. The Void Collective sensors registered the new ships with confusion. Their design was unlike anything known, neither Void nor Meridian. As they tried to process this new development, the human vessel struck. Quantum torpedoes, weapons that briefly shunted their targets into fold space, neutralized the mass drivers before they could fire. The massive weapons simply vanished, removed from normal spacetime entirely. The Void Fleet found itself facing an enemy that could literally manipulate the fabric of reality. This is Commodore Sarah Chen of the United Earth Security Force. She broadcast on all frequencies. Your mass drivers have been neutralized. Your weapons cannot harm us. Stand down, or we will demonstrate exactly how outmatched you are. The Void ships opened fire, their gravitational weapons distorting space itself. But the human vessels simply weren't there when the attacks arrived, using their quantum drives to exist slightly out of phase with normal spacetime. So be it, Sarah said quietly. All ships, execute containment protocols. Show them what humanity can really do. The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries. Human ships danced through space in ways that violated every known law of physics, their quantum drives allowing them to partially exist in multiple locations simultaneously. Their weapons didn't just destroy, they manipulated probability itself, causing void ships to suffer impossible mechanical failures or simply cease to exist. In the Void High Council chamber, panic set in as reports flooded in. Their mighty reserve fleet was being systematically dismantled by ships that could ignore physical laws at will. Some vessels simply vanished, transported into fold space. Others found their weapons turning against them as quantum fields redirected their own gravitational forces. We've got them contained, Sarah's EXO reported. The Void Fleet is trapped within quantum probability fields. They can't escape, and their weapons are useless. Sarah opened a channel to the Void High Council. This is your final warning. Humanity has remained hidden, watching your atrocities from the shadows. We helped the Meridians resist you because we once walked a similar path of technological arrogance. We learned better. Now you will too. The quantum feeds showed chaos in the council chamber. Everything they believed about their technological supremacy had been shattered. This new species, these humans, wielded technology that made their greatest achievements look primitive. Stand down your forces, Sarah continued, withdraw from Meridian space, and prepare for diplomatic contact. Otherwise, we will be forced to demonstrate even more of humanity's capabilities. Trust me, you don't want that. As the Void Collective's leaders argued among themselves, Sarah watched the tactical displays. The Shadow Fleet had them completely contained. Humanity's first major intervention in galactic affairs had been decisive, demonstrating both their power and their restraint. The Age of Shadows was over. Humanity had stepped into the light, and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after humanity's dramatic revelation, the galaxy was still adjusting to the new reality. The United Earth Diplomatic Center in Geneva hosted representatives from dozens of species, all eager to understand these humans who had hidden among the stars only to emerge with technology that defied comprehension. Sarah Chin stood before a holographic display of the reformed galactic territories, watching as borders shifted and alliances were formed. The Void Collective had fractured after their defeat, with many member species breaking away to seek their own path. The Meridians have fully reclaimed their core systems, Admiral Chin reported to the assembled Earth Security Council. More importantly, they're sharing their rehabilitation techniques with former Void worlds. The healing has begun. But not everyone was celebrating humanity's emergence. In the darker corners of space, other empires watched with growing concern. The Cthid Dominion and the Scarlet Concordat had already begun mobilizing their fleets, worried they might be next on humanity's list. Let them worry, Sarah said, manipulating the hologram to show fleet movements. Our quantum observers are tracking everything. They won't risk direct confrontation, not after what happened to the Void. The true revolution, however, wasn't military. Human quantum physics had shattered centuries of established scientific principles. The revelation that reality itself was more flexible than anyone had imagined sparked a renaissance of innovation throughout known space. The technology exchange programs are exceeding all expectations, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, head of the Earth Science Council, reported. The Meridian's understanding of gravitational mechanics, combined with our quantum principles, is opening entirely new fields of study. We're seeing advances in medicine, energy production, even environmental restoration. Sarah smiled, remembering the Meridian scientists' faces when they first truly understood how quantum fold drives worked. Their own technology had been advanced, but it followed conventional paths. Humans, isolated and forced to innovate, had stumbled upon principles that other races had never considered. Message from the Meridian High Council, her aide announced. They're ready to begin the Joint Defense Initiative. This was perhaps the most significant development. Rather than creating a human-dominated security force, Earth had proposed a collaborative defense network. Species that had once competed would now share their insights, combining different approaches to technology and strategy. The quantum defense grid is already operational in 3 sectors, Sarah reported, highlighting the regions in the hologram. Any aggressive action is instantly detected and can be contained before it escalates. We're creating stability through transparency rather than force. The Earth Security Council nodded in approval. Humanity's emergence had been carefully planned not just as a show of force, but as a catalyst for change. The galaxy had been locked in cycles of technological one-upmanship, each race trying to dominate through superior weapons. Humans had demonstrated a different path. Reports from the former Void worlds are encouraging, she continued. Once they understood that we weren't interested in conquering them, their scientists began sharing their own insights. Their gravitational technology, approached from a quantum perspective, has applications we never imagined. The integration of different technological approaches was creating synergies no one had predicted. Meridian crystal matrices, enhanced by quantum fields, were revolutionizing computing. Void gravitational manipulators, modified with human principles, were terraforming dead worlds back to life. We've received requests for diplomatic relations from 16 previously uncontacted species, Admiral Chen added. They've been watching from the shadows, just as we did. Now they see an opportunity for peaceful cooperation rather than technological competition. Sarah moved to the window, looking out over the Geneva spaceport where ships of various designs docked peacefully together. Human vessels with their quantum drives, Meridian ships with their crystalline hulls, even reformed void craft with their organic shapes, all working together. We hid ourselves because we weren't ready for the galaxy, she mused. But maybe the galaxy wasn't ready for us either. Sometimes it takes an outside perspective to break old patterns. The quantum calm chimed with updates from throughout known space. Former enemies were establishing trade relations. Scientific discoveries were being freely shared. The age of technological hoarding was ending, replaced by an era of collaborative innovation. The Cthid Dominion is requesting a demonstration of quantum fold technology, her aide reported. They're offering to share their temporal mechanics research in exchange. Sarah nodded. This was how change really happened, not through force or dominance, but through the sharing of knowledge and perspective. Humanity had emerged not as conquerors, but as catalysts, sparking a transformation that would reshape galactic civilization. Schedule the demonstration, she ordered. And tell them to bring their scientists. It's time they understood that the greatest technological advances come not from competition, but from cooperation. As the sun set over Geneva, quantum fold drives throughout known space hummed with possibility. The galaxy was changing, one shared discovery at a time, and humanity was proud to help light the way forward. 5 years after humanity's emergence, the observation deck of the new Meridian Space Academy offered a view that would have seemed impossible half a decade ago. Ships of every known species moved peacefully through the lanes of space, their designs a testament to the new era of collaboration. Sarah Chin, now Admiral Chin, stood beside Laura, the Meridian High Chancellor, watching as the first graduating class of the Multi-Species Innovation Corps received their assignments. The young officers, human, Meridian, reformed void, and a dozen other species, represented the future they'd fought to create. Did you ever imagine this? Laura asked, her crystalline features reflecting the starlight. When you first found our distress signal? Sarah shook her head. We hoped to save your people. We never expected to transform the galaxy. She gestured to a passing ship, its hull a seamless blend of quantum technology and void organic architecture. The collaborative engineering initiative has exceeded all projections. The real revolution hadn't been military or political, but cultural. When humanity revealed their quantum fold technology, they'd done more than demonstrate superior capabilities. They'd proven that isolation and competition weren't the only paths to advancement. The latest reports from the frontier research teams are remarkable, Laura said, activating a holographic display. The combination of Cthid temporal mechanics, void gravitational manipulation, and human quantum principles has opened up entirely new fields of physics. We're understanding the universe in ways none of us could have achieved alone. The display showed the latest breakthrough, a stable wormhole created through the synchronized application of multiple technological approaches. What one species saw as impossible became achievable when viewed through different perspectives. Admiral, her quantum calm chimed. The Scarlet Concordat's delegation has arrived for the Technology Exchange Summit. Sarah smiled. The once aggressive Concordat had been among the last to accept the new reality, but even they couldn't ignore the benefits of cooperation. Their unique approach to plasma dynamics, combined with quantum principles, had revolutionized energy production throughout known space. Remember how they used to hoard their technological secrets? Lara mused. Now they're eager to share, to learn, to collaborate. You humans showed us all a better way. But it wasn't just about technology. The Multi-Species Innovation Corps had created connections between civilizations that went beyond scientific exchange. Young officers learn not just different technical approaches, but different ways of thinking, different perspectives on the universe itself. Message from Earth, Sarah's aide announced. The Security Council has approved the expansion of the Quantum Defense Network. 10 more sectors will be brought online by the end of the year. The network exemplified humanity's approach to galactic security. Rather than creating a dominant force, they'd established a collaborative system where all member species contributed their unique insights and technologies. The result was a defense grid that could detect and prevent conflicts before they began. Have you seen the latest design from the Junior Corps? Laura asked, bringing up another hologram. It showed a ship that somehow incorporated aspects of every major species technology: quantum drives, crystalline matrices, organic computing, temporal sensors, and plasma containment systems. They're already thinking beyond the limitations of their individual species. Sarah watched as the graduation ceremony concluded, the new officers dispersing to their assignments throughout known space. Each would carry with them not just technical knowledge, but the understanding that diversity of thought and approach was strength, not weakness. We're receiving applications from species we didn't even know existed, her aide reported. They've been watching, waiting, seeing how this experiment in cooperation would play out. Now they want to join. The galaxy was transforming, not through conquest or competition, but through the simple recognition that different paths to knowledge could complement rather than conflict. Humanity's great contribution hadn't been their quantum technology, but their demonstration that isolation and secrecy were ultimately self-limiting. The stars are singing, Dlara said softly, using the old Meridian phrase. But now they sing for all of us. Sarah nodded, watching the endless dance of ships against the backdrop of space. That's what we hoped for in the end. Not to rule or dominate, but to show that the universe is vast enough for all our dreams, all our approaches, all our ways of seeing. The quantum comm chimed again with reports of new discoveries, new collaborations, new possibilities. The age of technological hoarding was over. The age of shared innovation had begun. And humanity, who had hidden themselves among the stars, had helped light the way forward. As the next class of Multi-Species Innovation Corps began their training below, Sarah Chun smiled. They had answered the Meridian's call for help, but in doing so, they'd helped create something far greater, a galaxy where different paths to knowledge led not to conflict, but to cooperation. The legacy of stars would be written not in the language of conquest, but in the shared vocabulary of innovation. And that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all.